Hey there! Welcome back to another episode of the rundown of the films of 2021. Now, I'm going to start out with my thoughts on Willy's Wonderland. This is an upcoming film that is going to come out in, I believe, February. It's coming out on February 12th of 2021. And it is a homage, a take on the popular video game franchise Five Nights at Freddy's. And instead of the employee who is tasked to watch these animatronics being afraid of the animatronics, the twist is that these animatronics should be afraid of the employee. And the employee is played by Nicolas Cage in a very inspired bit of casting. And I saw the trailer for this, and it looked like a lot of fun. Nick Cage, once again, delivering his unique brand and blend of acting and over the top badassery. And I like the concept. It's simple, but I think it has a chance to be really effective. I don't think it's probably going to be that scary, but I'm not expecting that from this movie. What I'm looking for from Willy's Wonderland is just a fun horror comedy with some really kick-ass bits of action and some gore and as much practical animatronics as possible. And the trailer really showed that the filmmakers and the people behind this, their intention is to do as much of these puppets as practically as they possibly can, which is really refreshing in the day and age of nonstop CGI. So yeah, this is one of my more anticipated films of 2021. I loved Mandy. It's one of my favorite films in the past few years. And Nicolas Cage in these kind of movies, sometimes it can be a hit and also it can be a miss. But I think this has potential to be a hit. I do. I think he might hit the jackpot with this one. So yeah, that's Willy's Wonderland. Uh, the next one I want to talk about is I Care a Lot, a film written and directed by Jay Blakeson, starring Rosamund Pike. You also have Diane Wiest, who you might recognize. She's been in a lot of different things. And she's in it as the latest victim of this woman who decides to take advantage of these rich elderly people and steal their money. And it seems like something that might be a little bit too mean spirited or a little too generic when you just look at the overall synopsis and everything. But when you watch the trailer for this and you figure out what the main goal is of this film, it's more of a black comedy. And Rosamund Pike is a phenomenal actress. She was absolutely spectacular in Gone Girl. And it looks like she's capturing that same intimidating insanity from that performance with this movie. And that's why I actually do care about watching this movie. Because Rosamund Pike, when she's on her A game, when she's playing these kinds of characters, she is an absolute powder keg. So I'm very curious about this one just for Rosamund Pike's performance, and it's coming out on February 19th. Now I know somebody was actually asking me if I had seen the trailer for Cherry because the actual trailer dropped fairly recently, and I did check it out, and it looks like it's going to have some good direction by the Russo brothers, and maybe some decent performances by a fair number of the cast members. Tom Holland, in particular. I think the issue with this film, though, I don't know if this is a story that is going to maintain enough interest for a feature film, because there's been so many movies that have been centered around this kind of plot about someone who is dealing with a lot of turmoil with their life and mentally and so on and so forth, and then they wind up doing bad deeds and sacrificing a lot of their relationships and so on and so forth. And that's the thing with this film. I think it'll be worth a watch, but it's going to have to really do something different with the way it's structured to make it stand out from a lot of the other dramas with this similar plot line. And I think it's going to have a hard time doing that. I'm going to give it a fair shot when it comes out, but I really do feel it's going to have a hard time distancing itself from all these other dramas with similar plot points and characterizations. But, I'll still give it a fair shot regardless. Then I want to talk about Fear of Rain. Really, they should just call it Blame It on the Rain and have Milli Vanilli do songs on the soundtrack. Blame it on the rain. Yeah, yeah. We can't sing. Yeah, yeah. But we're doing a song for the soundtrack for a movie called Fear of Rain. And it's not going to get a theatrical release. Yeah, yeah. It wasn't even going to get one if it was able to, if theaters were open. And it's just going to be a direct-to-video or streaming piece of shit. Looks like a generic fucking movie. Fear of Rain, it does. It looks like a generic fucking movie. Your typical what is real, what is not. Even the tagline, it's not all in her imagination. This one stars Katherine Heigl, Madison Iseman, Isabel Broussard, and Harry Connick Jr. Katherine Heigl plays this character who apparently, I guess when she was younger, she witnessed something and it's coming back to haunt her, and she's having hallucinations, and she doesn't know if they're flashbacks or if they're memories of things that actually occurred, and there's some supernatural stuff, and it really does. It looks like a generic piece of shit that you've seen a million times already. And I don't know why they keep making these kind of movies and why they keep wasting time and money on making these kind of movies. There is literally no reason for any more of these films. We've done hundreds, if not thousands, of these particular films with this kind of plot line. So it's not much of a mystery anymore. It's actually a bigger mystery why we keep making these things. Who is the audience for these movies? So the next film I want to talk about from 2021 is Godzilla vs. Kong. Yes, King of Monsters, the more times I see it, it loses a little bit of its luster, a little bit of its power, but I still thought it was a step up from Godzilla. And Kong Skull Island, I absolutely loved. I had a really good time with that one. I thought it was a very entertaining, fun movie. So, I'm still looking forward to this crossover. It's not going to be like the other Kong versus Godzilla movie, because in that one it was more of like a fight between the two, and one was good and one was bad. I don't think that's not going to be the case here. There's going to be a fight between the two, and I think it has potential to be really cool and visually impressive, but I don't think there's going to be a clear victor. And I think eventually what's going to happen is they're going to team up and they're going to fight some other bigger threat. And yes, that's predictable and it's a bit cliched. And I am worried about too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to Godzilla mythos and Kong mythos and also this other story that maybe they're going to try to tell. But I think despite a lot of trepidation, this could be a really fun monster mash if it is handled correctly. And that's up to Adam Wingard, the director, who's a new face in the franchise. He's a new guy who is taking the reins. And I just hope they don't take it too seriously. You can't take this kind of film super seriously. You have to have fun with it. You have to go over the top. You have to go balls to the wall. You can't half ass it. You can't go at this kind of film with anything less than 110%. And I would love to see this in the theater. This seems like a huge event movie that should be seen in IMAX, but I don't even know if we're even gonna have theaters open by March. So I will take just being able to see it sometime in 2021. I know it has a release date in March, but that could change. I remember reading something that there was going to be a streaming release, but I think there were some legal issues with Legendary and Warner Brothers, so I don't know if it's actually going to get one or not. Uh, I think there were some new photos that popped up online recently of Godzilla versus Kong, but I didn't want to spend too much time talking about it. But it's one of those movies that I think it does have a lot of potential to be one of the best films of 2021. And it is one of the films that I am looking forward to. Despite having my caution flag up, so to speak, when it comes to the movie. So that's Godzilla versus Kong. The next one that I want to talk about is Black Widow. I Here's my thing about Black Widow. This is one of those films that I think is way too late in the game. I do not feel that we needed to have a Black Widow movie this late in the game, especially after the Avengers films when you know that she doesn't make it out. You know that she dies later on. And also, it hurts any bit of suspense that this film might have because you know that she's not going to be in any kind of real harm, any kind of real danger. You know that she's going to make out of whatever this situation alive. You know, she's going to figure this shit out. She's going to save the day because it's a prequel. This is an issue with prequels. They tend to be somewhat predictable and have issues with maintaining suspense and thrills and overall intrigue because you know how everything's going to end. And in order to make a prequel work, you have to really either start with the prequel, like for instance, Captain America, First Avenger. That was the first standalone Captain America film in the MCU. So it was, in a lot of ways, a prequel to events that would happen later on in the MCU, but it was the first introduction to the character. Which is why I wish they did a Black Widow film beforehand. Instead of doing Captain Marvel, doing a standalone film on a character that a lot of fans do not give a shit about, and to this day do not give a shit about, do the Black Widow film. They should have done the Black Widow film instead of Captain Marvel in the first place. And I feel that doing it now is a mistake, and it's going to hurt this movie, and it's going to hurt a lot of people's intrigue and interest in it. And at the same time, I do like ScarJo, and I think it has potential to maybe be a okay movie, but it's also coming out around the same time where there's been a lot of these kind of films dealing with this super spy or superwoman kind of character. I mean, we've already had Atomic Blonde, we've already had a good number of these movies that have been coming out lately, and I feel that Black Widow, it's just gonna kind of get lumped in with all the other ones. And this is also at the point when I feel the MCU is going to be diminished returns. And it's just one of those movies that I wasn't even that psyched or that hyped about it last year. And I like Black Widow as a character. I like Scarlett Johansson. But something about the trailer just didn't really look that amazing to me in terms of the action or in terms of the plot. I didn't like some of the jokes they were trying to go with at David Harbour's character's expense. And I don't know about the director. I really don't know about Kate Shortland. I think she might come up short. I really do. But that being said, I will eventually give it a shot when it does come out. It's not coming out in November. It's I guess it's supposed to come out in April of 2021, but it's another film that probably will not get a theatrical release. This is probably another movie that will get dumped to Disney Plus in the near future, despite Disney's misgivings against that particular approach. But yeah, if you're excited for Black Widow, that's fine, that's cool. I just think it's a little too late, especially after Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 1984. It's just one of those things where I think Marvel dropped the ball here. And I think with this particular storyline and this character, they really put themselves into a corner by not doing this instead of Captain Marvel. And I think that's really going to hurt this film and prevent it from being a really good classic installment in the MCU. But, you know, at the end of the day, I hope I'm wrong. I do. I hope I'm wrong because I don't want films to be disappointing. I don't want films to be bad or lame. I want them to work out. So, despite my issues, despite my feelings, and my first impressions on Black Widow, I hope it does blow me away. But I really have a lot of doubts of its capability or its ability to do so. So that's my thoughts on Black Widow. The next one I want to talk about is Free Guy. This is one that grew on me. I didn't really care for the first trailer. I thought the humor was a little shit, to be honest. And it seemed like Disney, with their first Fox film, was trying a little too hard to try to be edgy and try to be like Deadpool. But then there was another trailer that came out, and I like that one. And I feel this is a movie that I don't think it's going to reinvent the wheel. I don't think it's going to be that unique or imaginative of a film. But I think it's going to be an enjoyable ride. And the reason for that is because of Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds is a ball of energy and a ball of charisma. And it looks like he's going to have fun. And as a result, it looks like I'm going to have fun watching this movie. So it's one of those movies that, yes, it has a plot that's kind of been done before in other films, but it's also taking an approach with the video game landscape and the world that's a little more unique than most video game movies. And I think there's a lot of potential for satire, a lot of potential for some really clever gags. And the action when it is there in the trailers, it looks fast, it looks furious, it looks pretty kinetic, and definitely are some moments that look like they're going to bring the laugh. So I'll definitely give this one a shot when it does eventually come out. I doubt it's going to get it. This is another one I don't think it's going to get a theatrical release. I think this is just going to get dumped to Disney Plus or Hulu in May. But regardless, If it does get a theatrical release, I'll be willing to check it out because I'm a huge fan of Ryan Reynolds, and it looks like it might be a legitimately fun movie. The next film is Spiral. This one stars Chris Rock and Sam Jackson. This is one of those films that was supposed to come out last year. Like a good chunk of these movies that I'm going to be talking about in this video series. And it's got pushed, and now it's going to get hopefully a release in May of 2021, May of this year. Now, I saw the trailer for this. I wasn't that impressed by it. It's one of those movies that I'm going to give it a watch, but I don't have my hopes very high for it. The Saw franchise is a dead horse at this point, and I think it was to this film's detriment that it's a part of the Saw franchise. Why does this have to be a part of the Saw franchise? Why can't this just be its own film with its own universe and its own story? Having it shoehorned into the Saw franchise, I think, is going to limit it, and I think it's going to make it not as impactful or unique as it could have been otherwise. That being said, I'm still going to give it a shot because I like Chris Rock and I'm really curious to see how he's going to pull off a more serious role. I hope they don't pull off some bullshit twist where he's Jigsaw or he's the killer the entire time. That would be really annoying. But it's one of those movies that I wouldn't say is one of my most anticipated films of this year, but it's one of the films I definitely have my eye on. And I'm hoping it really does spin me around. It spins me around to the direction of being a fan of it because I don't want to hate this movie. I want it to be good, but I just don't really have the best feeling about it. There's just something in the back of my head that is just expecting some bullshit twist, and the connection to the Saw franchise is really going to cut it. It's really going to cut it in the worst way. It's not gonna cut it uh, when it comes to being a solid standalone film. But the next film is Fast and the Furious 9. F9. This poster is terrible. Like, what is this shit? What is this? Why do we have all these fucking colors? Why does this look like it's gonna be one of those parades or some shit where they, like, explode a bunch of colored dust? Like, I don't understand. Also, this is a franchise that is running thin. It's running on empty. It's running on fumes. And each installment has been kind of worse than the last in some ways. Well, I gotta be honest. Fast 8 I liked more than Fast 7. So it was a little bit of an upgrade in that department. But compared to Fast 5 and Fast 6, none of those films, in terms of the sequels after them, have been on the same level. And Hobbs and Shaw, I had some fun with it, but it had its fair number of flaws. It didn't really hit its full gear. And, you know, I think they should just end it out of respect to Paul Walker. I've heard some rumors that they're going to have his character in this with the CGI double and all that again. And I'm like, really? Just out of respect to Paul, just let his character ride off into the sunset for good, like what he did at the end of Fast 6. We don't need to have another Fast and the Furious sequel that has Paul Walker's character involved. Also, the addition of John Cena does absolutely jack shit for me. I don't like John Cena. I don't think he's a good actor. He has the only time that I thought he sort of worked in a film was Blockers and his cameo in Trainwreck. And that's it. So when he's doing a comedy that's not playing with fire, uh, it seems like that's within his wheelhouse. But the action stuff, he always came across as someone that I didn't buy, that wasn't believable as a tough guy, and he's supposed to be Dom's brother and the main villain. That's a really uh, big mistake, if you ask me. And I guess they're gonna be bringing back Sung Kang. I think that's the guy's name. They're bringing back the guy from Fast and the Furious 3 Tokyo Drift who died in one of the films. How the hell are they bringing him back? Is it his clone or some shit? It's just I don't know. Even the trailer for this, the action didn't look like it was going to be that exciting and that thrilling. It almost looked like they were going backwards in terms of the over reliance on CGI, which is one of the reasons why some of the worst films in the franchise sucked as much as they did, like Fast and the Furious 4, and why Fast 7 wasn't as good as Fast 5 and Fast 6 for me because it just had so much more CGI stunts. And yeah, it's something that I'll give it a watch. I'll give it a shot because these are films that can be dumb popcorn entertainment, but I'm afraid it's the popcorn is about to get burnt if it isn't burnt already. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Fast 9. Then we have The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which is the third film in the Conjuring franchise. Uh, I don't think there's been a trailer yet. And I think this is another one that's going to be coming out through Warner Brothers' streaming service, HBO Max. And I did do some research. Speaking of HBO Max, apparently Godzilla vs. Kong is going to have a streaming release on HBO Max. So they made a deal with Legendary and made it work out, which is good because I want to see that. I want to see this too, but I think this has potential to be disappointing, and the reason for it is it's been a while since the second film, and the second movie, I don't think it was on the same level of quality as the first. It was still a decent enough film, but I just felt it was nowhere near as scary, intense, or as strong of a movie when it comes to the characters. And I'm worried about the same with this one. And the whole plot with the courtroom stuff, it deals with this guy, this young boy, who I guess he's a murder suspect, and he was the first one to claim demonic possession as a defense. And I don't know, it sounds like they're gonna go the courtroom drama route, and I was so excited about it, I just completely xed out of everything. My apologies. The devil made me do it. No, no. Really, truthfully though, um, I just I'm not excited about the courtroom drama aspect of this. I hope that's kept to a minimum. If there's a lot of that in this movie, this has potential to be one of the weakest films in the series, and a weak film in general. But I'll wait for a trailer before I really say some somewhat concrete thoughts on it. I mean, at least you have Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson are coming back as the Warrens, and but I'm also the director has me leery. It's the same guy who did The Curse of La Llorona, and that was, from what I've been hearing and what I've read, a pretty shitty movie, and the direction wasn't that impressive. So I'm worried about that because one of the best aspects of The Conjuring is the direction. And that's a key aspect to this franchise, if you ask me, is the kind of dynamic, skilled direction. And I don't think this guy has shown that he could do that. So I'm afraid this is going to look cheap. It's going to look flat. And the guy who did La Llorona, which was a critical flop, I don't know if he's the best guy to direct the next installment in the series. But that's my thoughts on The Conjuring. The Devil Made Me Do It. The next one I want to talk about is Samaritan, a film starring Stallone, Sylvester Stallone. It's directed by Julius Avery, and it features a bunch of actors and actresses I haven't really heard of, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the film's going to be bad. There were some new photos that have been posted lately about the film. I think it was on Entertainment Weekly or something. This is just stuff from IMDb. I think we'll just go with Sly with this hammer. Um, Samaritan, I'm curious about this one. This is one of the 2021 films I'm looking forward to, and the reason for it is it's supposed to be a dark, gritty superhero action drama, and Stallone plays this retired in the shadows superhero, and it's rated R. And I've heard a lot of things from people who have made it that it's really going to live up to that R rating. And surprisingly, I guess there's going to be a decent amount of action. Stallone's doing a lot of his own stunts, and I've always wanted to see Stallone in this kind of role as a aging superhero in a gritty, dark, R-rated environment. And yes, there's a potential for it to suck, and I'm going to wait to share much more fleshed out thoughts when the trailer comes out. But I'm a Stallone fan. I don't want him to be stuck doing Escape Plan sequels and Backtrace and all these other kind of shitty direct-to-video movies. I want him to be able to still shine and have his moment in the sun on bigger budgeted films that have the right size and scope to them for an actor of his caliber. And I feel that this is an opportunity for him to really create something special. And I think it could be one of his best films and one of his best performances if everything falls into place. If the screenplay is well done and if things work out the way that I hope that they're going to work out. I have my doubts, but I'm still looking forward to it because I really do like Sly, and I'm so curious to see him in this kind of unbreakable environment, like an unbreakable film, but with the fact that he's a known superhero and has been a known superhero for years. Because for a lot of us, Sly has been a hero. He's always been a hero for us. And to see him play a superhero character that isn't a Marvel movie, that isn't a DC film, I think there's a lot about that concept that is very appealing. And I know some people aren't really that big on it, but I am firmly in this film's corner, and I'm going to be cheering for it all the way through. And that means that I'll be even more disappointed if it's bad. But I'll be one of the people that will stand in Samaritan's corner for now. The next film I want to talk about is Ghostbusters Afterlife. Yeah, the Ghostbusters reboot slash sequel that was supposed to come out last year, directed by Jason Reitman, the kid who called the Ghostbusters a bunch of jerks at the birthday party. Um, in Ghostbusters 2. Like, I've always thought that was a funny bit of trivia that it's the same kid because it was Jason Reitman who, what, my dad says you're a bunch of jerks or something like that. But the torch is actually being passed from his father Ivan to his son Jason, and I love Ghostbusters. You all know that. Anybody who's followed my channel for any length of time knows that I love this franchise for the most part, except for Ballbusters. I hated that movie. Um, and this seems like it's going back to the roots. It's not being as disrespectful to the legacy of the franchise, and it seems like its heart is in the right place. That being said, I don't know if it's gonna work. It seems like it's a lot of too little too late in terms of bringing in Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, and maybe having something involving Egon in terms of one of the characters might be his daughter or his son, or he left something behind. I'm hoping that they handle things well, but it's Sony we're talking about. They greenlit and accepted and let Paul Feig take a shit and a massive whiz all over the franchise previously. So you can understand why someone like myself is very leery of this. That being said, as a fan of Ghostbusters, I want this franchise to rise again. I want this franchise to really power up those proton packs and blow people away once again and regain the faith in the franchise from its fan base. But I just, knowing what's going on with Sony, the fact that it's a bunch of kids being Ghostbusters and they didn't just do an extreme Ghostbuster story really has me firmly on the fence. And to say, so to speak, I mean, I might as well even be off the fence at this point because I don't like this idea of kids being Ghostbusters. It reminds me of the Q5 days with the real Ghostbusters when you had kid Ghostbusters, and that shit was embarrassing. It was lame even for a cartoon. And as much as I like some of these Stranger Things kids, I'm kind of getting sick of seeing them in Stranger Things kind of stories. So that has me leery. And to be honest, the teaser trailer didn't really show that much, so we haven't really seen that much of the movie. We've seen this poster, we've seen some photos, you've read interviews, people were talking about it and saying all the right things, but the same people said the right things about the reboot, about the 2016 film. So does that really mean that it's going to be the right mix of ingredients and storylines and characterizations? I don't know. I hope this film doesn't bust my balls a second time. And that's why I probably won't see this in the theater, even if it is something that is given a theatrical release, unless the trailer really blows me away. If the longer trailer blows me away and it really seems like it's got the right idea, I might give it a shot in the theater. But I don't think we're going to have to worry about theaters anyway. I think stuff's just going to end up on streaming, even by the time that this is supposed to come out in June. But that being said, I'm hoping that the stuff with the original cast is handled respectfully, especially when it comes to the spirit of Harold Ramis and his character Egon Spangler. And I'm hoping that with this film that it does recapture some of that spark from the first two movies. I'm not expecting greatness, but even if it's just above average, that's way above expectations. And I would be satisfied with that when it comes to this movie. And I'm just hoping with the original cast, it's not a bunch of blink and you miss it cameos, or they have like a few scenes here and there. If you're going to have them here and they're going to come back, have them have one last badass moment where they save the world one more time with the help of their new friends. Because it's not believable in the slightest that a bunch of kids and this teacher are going to somehow work the proton packs and figure shit out enough to be able to stop the world from imploding from another spiritual Armageddon without the help of the original Ghostbusters. So I don't want to see this. They just pass the torch and they don't just train them or something and then don't really take part in the finale. If you're gonna have them here, they better be wearing the proton packs, they better be suiting up, and they better be busting some ghost ass. If they're not gonna do that, it's a wasted opportunity, and you might as well not have even had them in the movie. But that's just how I feel. I'm bracing myself for disappointment. I'm bracing myself for some more busting of my balls, but I'm hoping that this does bring new life into the franchise, despite all of my feelings and all of the inner turmoil that I'm feeling right now when it comes to Ghostbusters Afterlife. The next one I want to talk about is Venom. Let There Be Carnage. I love the character of Carnage. I arguably like Carnage even more than I like Venom. The last Venom film was disappointing, and I thought it was a pretty bad film. Uh, the PG-13 rating, if they are going for that, is a massive error on Sony's part. There's no way in hell you can do a Carnage film without an R rating. He's a fucking serial killer. You have to make it R rated. That's not going to work. And I don't know about Woody Harrelson as Carnage. I like Woody Harrelson as an actor, but I don't know if he's the right guy for that role. Tom Hardy fucking sucked as Eddie Brock. And I didn't care for the last Venom. So I feel that what is really going to be here that's going to be that great? What's going to be there when it comes to Venom Let There Be Carnage that's not going to be something that makes me want to go on some kind of crime spree of my own out of just sheer frustration at how they not only fucked up Venom, but then they fucked up Carnage. I mean, you already messed up with Venom with the turd in the wind fucking speech. Now you're gonna try to take your shots at Carnage. You just quit while you're ahead, Sony. How about that? And also the director Andy Serkis. Like, has he really done anything when it comes to this kind of movie? Did he direct the last one? Maybe he directed the last one. I completely forgot if he directed anything. I need to go. I'm gonna check his IMDb because I forgot if he directed. I don't know if he directed anything yet. I think he has. I think he has directed something beforehand. Oh, he directed the Mowgli movie. Yeah, that everybody liked. The other Jungle Book film that everybody already forgot about. Yeah, it's great. Have that guy direct the Venom. Let their. I can't even fucking say the title. I'm so irritated at the idea of this because there's just a film that I think it's just gonna suck. It is going to fucking suck. Symbiote dick. If it doesn't, I will be surprised, and I will be the first one to say I was wrong. But knowing Sony's track record, knowing how bad Venom was, knowing that Andy Serkis, all he did before was do the Jungle Book movie that nobody fucking remembers, I don't have a lot of hope for it. I just have a lot of Venom. So that's my thoughts on Venom Let There Be Carnage. Next one I want to talk about is going to be Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, that's right. I'm dangerous. Top Gun Maverick. I love Top Gun. I have loved Top Gun ever since I was a kid. I watched that film tons and tons of times on VHS. I listened to the soundtrack so much I wore out my mom's first tape of it. And it's just one of my favorite films. It's got its flaws. In a lot of ways, it's just a giant music video. But it's so good. It's so entertaining. And it really does make you want to be up there in a fighter jet, flying around like Maverick and soaring through the sky. And I really felt that the trailer for this film, at least the teaser trailer, I didn't really watch the second trailer because I didn't want to be spoiled. The teaser trailer for this was fantastic. It looked amazing when it comes to its visuals. I love how most of it's going to be done for real. They're actually going to be flying real jets. They're actually going to be doing a lot of this stuff live on camera and not inside a computer. And Tom Cruise, he's had a really good track record lately for me in terms of his films. I love the last Mission Impossible movie, and you could tell that he's really, really passionate about Maverick. He's been passionate about this franchise for many, many years. It's too bad that Tony Scott's no longer with us because originally he was going to direct this, and I think they're going to have a tribute to him at some point in this film, which I think is going to be really nice to see. But Joseph Kosinski, he's a capable director, and you know that Tom Cruise is going to do whatever he possibly can to make this film as good as it can be, to make it fly as high as it can, because he's such a passionate guy. He cares that much. I'm hoping it's not just a lot of rinse and repeat when it comes to different storylines from the first movie. Some shots in the trailer kind of gave me that vibe, but I'm hoping they really do not go that route because that would be lazy. Initially, I was very against the idea of a Top Gun sequel this late. But after seeing the teaser trailer, knowing Tom Cruise's track record, this is probably my most anticipated film in 2021. It was my most anticipated film from last year. So my expectations are through the sky and in the danger zone. I really am hoping this is going to be a film that's going to fly on mighty wings across the sky and be a true gem in its own right. That's what's going to make it so much more painful if it crashes on the tarmac. And I know that. But as a fan of Top Gun, as a fan of Maverick, as a fan of Tom Cruise, as a fan of this franchise for so many years, I mean, folks, I even dressed up as Maverick for Halloween last year. So, this is a character and this is a franchise that means a lot to me. So, I'm hoping that it doesn't suck. And I have my feelings that it's not going to. I really do think this is going to be a good tribute and continuation to Top Gun. I don't think it's going to top the first film, but I think it's still going to be a solid film. And if I'm wrong, oh oh man, uh uh, they're definitely gonna hear it. And I'm not gonna hold back because I really do love Top Gun, and I love the teaser trailer for this, and I'm looking forward to it so much. And if it disappoints me and if it sucks, may God have mercy on its fucking soul. That's all I gotta say. I'm the one that's gonna be dangerous. I'm gonna be heading past the danger zone if this movie sucks. So that's Top Gun Maverick, and I think I'll probably leave this part with Top Gun. I mean, there's some other films that I want to talk about, but I'm gonna save those for the third installment or maybe a fourth installment. I just don't want this series to be too long in the tooth. Anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, see you later. See ya.